At the bottom of the deepest place on Earth, beneath nearly 7 miles of crushing black water, scientists fully expected to find a dead and empty void. The reasoning was simple enough. The pressure down there is so extreme, it would flatten a human being in an instant. There is no sunlight. There is almost no warmth. Nothing but cold, eternal darkness. For most of human history, we simply assumed that nothing could possibly survive down there. But when explorers finally built machines strong enough to reach the very bottom, they did not find a lifeless graveyard. They found something alive. And the deeper they looked, the more the truth defied absolutely everything we thought we knew. To grasp what we are talking about, you first have to understand the sheer, almost absurd scale of this place. The Mariana Trench is a long, crescent-shaped scar cut into the floor of the western Pacific Ocean, stretching roughly 1,500 miles in length. And at its very bottom, in a narrow slot known as the Challenger Deep, the ocean plunges to a depth of nearly 11,000 meters. That is more than 35,000 feet straight down. To put that into perspective, if you took Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on the entire planet, and dropped it into this trench, its peak would still sit more than a mile beneath the surface. The deepest point of the ocean is farther below sea level than Everest rises above it. And the conditions down there are not merely harsh, they are outright hostile to life as we understand it. The weight of all that water pressing down creates a pressure of more than 1,000 times what you feel right now standing at sea level. That is the equivalent of roughly 8 tons pressing down on every single square inch. The temperature of the water hovers just above freezing, somewhere between 1 and 4 degrees. It is, without exaggeration, the most extreme environment on the surface of this planet. And for a very long time, almost everyone was absolutely certain it was completely dead. It made perfect sense. Complex life, we believed, needed certain things. It needed sunlight, or at least the warmth and the energy that sunlight provides. It needed oxygen. It needed manageable pressure. The bottom of the Mariana Trench seemed to offer none of these, and so scientists imagined it as a barren desert of mud, frozen in eternal night, untouched and unchanging since the very dawn of the world. They were wrong, and the proof began arriving one impossible descent at a time. Reaching the bottom of the trench was, for decades, considered nearly impossible. In 1960, 2 men, Don Walsh and Jacques Piccard, crammed themselves into a steel sphere called the Trieste and sank slowly down into the dark. They became the first human beings ever to reach the bottom of the Challenger Deep. Their descent took nearly 5 hours, and at the very bottom, they reported something unforgettable. Through the thick porthole, in the pitch black, they saw a small flatfish rise up out of the mud and swim away. It was a fleeting glimpse, dismissed by some scientists at the time, but it was the very first hint that the deepest place on Earth might not be empty after all. For more than half a century after that dive, almost no one followed. Then, in 2012, the filmmaker James Cameron made the journey alone, in a custom-built submersible, spending hours collecting samples and images from the seafloor. And in 2019, an explorer named Victor Vescovo descended as part of an audacious mission to reach the deepest point of every ocean on Earth. Each of these journeys pushed our technology to its absolute limit, and each one returned carrying the same astonishing message. There was life down there. The first surprise was simply that anything survived at all. But the real shock was how much of it there really was. Researchers found single-celled organisms, giant amoeba-like creatures, clinging to the deep at depths that should have been outright lethal. They found swarms of amphipods, pale shrimp-like crustaceans the size of a human hand, scavenging across the seafloor. And then came the discovery that truly stunned the biologists. They found fish. Living, moving fish, swimming through the black water nearly 5 miles down. The deepest of these was a small, translucent, almost ghostly creature now known as the Mariana snailfish. It does not look like a monster of the deep. It looks delicate, almost fragile, with no scales and a soft, gelatinous body. And yet it thrives in a place that would instantly destroy almost any other animal on the planet. Scientists studying it discovered that it survives by carrying a special molecule in its cells, one that stops its proteins and its membranes from collapsing under the crushing pressure. It is, in essence, a creature built to live where nothing should be able to. And its very existence forced researchers to completely redraw the line where they believed life itself could reach. But you might be wondering a very natural question. With no sunlight and no plants, what could anything down there possibly eat? The answer is as eerie as it is beautiful. Far above, in the sunlit surface waters, countless creatures live and die, and as they die, their remains drift slowly downward in a continuous, gentle rain that scientists call marine snow. For days, for weeks, this dead matter sinks through the darkness, until at last it settles on the bottom of the trench, where it becomes food for everything waiting below. The deepest ecosystem on Earth is, in a very real sense, built on the corpses of the world above it. Even the mud turned out to be alive. When scientists examined the sediment scooped up from the bottom, they found it teeming with microbes, in numbers and activity levels that genuinely shocked them. One major study found that the microscopic life down there was consuming organic matter at a rate even higher than in far shallower sunlit waters. The deepest place on Earth was not a dead zone at all. It was a bustling, hidden ecosystem, quietly recycling the remains of life that drifted down from the world above. But then came the discovery that defied expectation in an entirely different direction, and not in a way anyone wanted. When those pale, deep-sea amphipods were brought back up to the surface and examined in laboratories, scientists found something inside their bodies that should have been completely impossible. Plastic. Microscopic fragments of human-made plastic woven directly into their tissues. And alongside the plastic, they found industrial chemicals, pollutants that do not occur anywhere in nature, poisons that human beings had created and then dumped out into the world. It got worse. During the 2019 expedition, as Victor Vescovo's submersible sat resting on the bottom of the Challenger Deep, in the single most remote, most inaccessible point on the entire planet, the cameras caught sight of something lying on the seafloor. It looked like a plastic bag, or perhaps a candy wrapper, a piece of human garbage resting quietly on the bottom of the deepest place on Earth. Let that sink in for just a moment. We have polluted the highest peak on the planet, and we have polluted the deepest trench. There is, it turns out, nowhere left on Earth that remains untouched by us. This is the part of the story that genuinely changes how you see the world. We went down to the Mariana Trench expecting to find the end of life, the absolute limit of where biology could possibly reach. Instead, we found life thriving in conditions we once called impossible. We found creatures that rewrote the rules of survival. We found an entire ecosystem hidden away in the dark, doing its quiet, vital work far beneath the waves. And woven through all of it, we found ourselves, our waste, our chemicals, our fingerprints pressed into the most remote corner of the planet we could possibly reach. It is a strange and humbling thing to realize. The deepest place on Earth turned out to be full of life we never imagined. And it turned out to be full of us, in the worst possible way. The very same journey that revealed the astonishing resilience of nature also revealed the staggering reach of human destruction. Both of those truths sitting side by side at the very bottom of the world. So here is the question I want to leave you with. What does it say about us as a species that the very moment we finally reached the deepest, most hidden place on Earth, the first thing we found there was our own garbage? I want to hear your answer. Drop it in the comments below. If this journey to the bottom of the world changed something in how you see our planet, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe, because the next mystery we uncover might be the one that changes how you see everything. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never believe we have reached the bottom of what there is to know. I am Arif Hasan, and this is AH History.